trip to see that because I've never seen it like that. But you know, it was like the day, like probably when my grandfather bought it. So we went up and over. There was no. They tore down all the cabins. There was no cabins on the cliffs. You know, on the cliffs up above the ocean there. They tore them all down. The only one that they left was the one on the island, and it was all decrepit. You could see the roof caving in and stuff. It's been there for 50 years, over 50 years. You know, I mean, I was 9 years old, so that's 55. Or let me see, 60, and 64 years ago. 64 years. I'm 69 now, and I've been going up there since I was 5 years old. So yeah, like 64 years ago.
That's wild, man. Good memories, though, eh? Like, I mean, that is so cool that you went back to see that. It's like my parents always had property on the Sunshine Coast, which would be across from, say, if you're on the way up to Campbell River, maybe across from Parksville, you know, the area Qualicum, you go over to the mainland, and there's a remote area over there only accessible by ferry called the Sunshine Coast. Seashell, Gibsons, Roberts Creek. They had 14 acres in Roberts Creek, and that was our summer place because I lived in Vancouver. And we'd go there for the summer or weekends and stuff like that. So always good memories. They sold that place in 77 and bought over here on these Southern Gulf Islands in 78. But, you know, my wife, my second wife now, I married her. And her mom and her sister actually live up in that area. So I've been up there a few times. The last time I was up there was several years ago. And we drove past where the cabin used to be, which I had good memories of. Of course, the cabin is long gone now. And there's a big house that somebody had replaced the cabin with. But I look at old pictures from back in the 60s and early 70s of me, you know, spending time up there, Dad riding me around on his motorbike, me on my mini bikes. That's what I envision it as. But it's changed a little bit, but it's still a fairly quiet place up there. You probably know about the Sunshine Coast, don't you?
Well, I really don't know about the Sunshine Coast, but let me tell you, what a place if you had an enduro, a dual sport, like a dual sport motorcycle, what a great place to have. I never was old enough and had a motorcycle when we were up there, because I was only, up to 5 years, 5 years old we started going up there, and I stopped going up there when I was about 12 to 13 years old. We stopped going up there because my grandfather passed away in 1969, somewhere in that area. He passed away. And then my grandmother didn't know what to do, and the taxes were pretty expensive, and nobody was going up there. The family used to go up there every summer, but nobody was going up there. We're paying all this taxes. So she ended up selling the place. And the government of the Canadian government or somebody went up there, and they just took down all the cabins because people were freeloading. They're freeloading those cabins, man. They were all built up really nice, and they had windows and doors and screen doors and everything for the mosquitoes and what have you. I mean, it had bunk beds. We built really cool, and up there was so awesome because all the cabins were built with free wood. We had an aluminum boat with an outboard, and we go across the bay, and at high tide there was like perfectly beautiful pieces of already cut, rounded off beautifully wood, big long, maybe like 6 by 12s. I mean, 10 foot long. We just throw them in the water and drag them back over to our place, and it was just awesome. Free wood, beautiful wood that was coming off those, some of those, what do they call them, tugboats or whatever. They're pulling all this stuff, all this wood that's been cut from the foundry or whatever, where they, cut out the wood, and it floats off, and it just floats up on the damn shores, and you can get free, beautiful, already ready to go cured wood. It was unbelievable. But we had beautiful driftwood cabins that were really nice, and my grandfather and my dad built those up. Every year we go up and fix them up a little bit more, but yeah, it's all gone. It was a trip to go up and over the hill and look down on the bay from the top of the rock, from the walkway going in, we call it the tractor hill, and up and over. It was all overgrown. You couldn't even get in there. Matter of fact, the tractor road that when I was a kid, me and my grandpa, he had a little Jeep, and me and my grandpa, my dad, and a couple of us, we had hand bandsaws cutting our way in from the tractor trail from over by the lake up on top, going through the old tractor trail and cutting all the bushes and trees out of the way, and so my grandfather could make it all the way down to the bay. That way, if we went shopping or whatever, we could bring the groceries, drive them in right to the bay, but otherwise, we took the aluminum boat, the 16-foot aluminum from the bay that we had there over to Harriet Bay, and we stopped. We bring in the groceries to Harriet Bay, and then we drive the boat over, take the boat over there, and load up the boat, just bring it right over to the cabins. But yeah, no, the only thing that what a place to have a motorcycle though, because they were all like logging roads, like just really bitchin' logging roads that were basically like almost like what do you say, like bark roads, like those big trees, and they just they weren't even, some of them were a little dusty and dirty, a little bit here and there, but they put a lot of bark down on there, smashed in from here and there, trucks or cars or whatever. Not that busy over there, a little house here and there that comes in from the road all the way to the ocean. They had their beautiful homes there, and my grandfather had a good friend that lived a ways away, and I think maybe that's how he got in touch with that place, is through him. But they used to keep our boat and our motor through the winter, and then we'd come back in the summer and we go to their house and they lift the boat up and over the other way and take our motor out of their shed and get it all prepped up, and it was really kind of a cool deal, man. But what a place to have a motorcycle. I was thinking, if I would have been a teenager and even a little older and had a motorbike, like an off-road, enduro, I could go explore that whole island, go up those, take a backpack with my little telescopic fishing pole and go up to these rivers and these other places and probably ponds, or let's just say lakes, and on the other side. I never did explore any of the other side. We just stopped at our place and that was it. But I would have loved to explore that island, just trip around on the motorcycles, around some of those logging roads to the other side of the island, and just trip out on it, check it out, and have a good time and look at the views and maybe do a little fishing, whatever. But I never got to do that because I was too young at the time, didn't have a motorcycle, and when I went up there to visit, and I always thought in the back of my mind, remembering those logging roads, thinking, my God, if I had a motorcycle here, I'd terrorize this place. I'd just go all over the place. I would ride that motorcycle all day long, all over the place, exploring that cotton picking island, Quadra Island. But yeah, it was beautiful, man. The place that you're talking about, I'm not sure of, but there's another place from the ferry from Harriet Bay. If you're familiar with Harriet Bay on Quadra Island, there's a ferry, another ferry. Not only did it take you from Campbell River to Quadra Island, but there's another ferry just like it on the other side there, on Quadra Island at Harriet Bay, and you can take it over to a place called Whale Town. My cousins had a house in Whale Town. Over.
Okay, yeah, I know it. And there's also a ferry that takes you over to Cortez Island from Quadra Island as well. It's another island near Quadra. And we always had motorcycles up at our cabin. My dad had a motorcycle for him in the shed, and when I was a kid, I had my Keystone mini bike there. And then when I got a little bit older, I had my Suzuki TS75 enduro bike up there too. And we had 14 acres, so I used to just rip around on our property. But back then there was way less cops around too, so sometimes we'd rip around on the road a lot. My dad sure did. But Quadra Island, same thing. There wouldn't be any cops up there to bother you. And like you said, you had a fishing pole, and if you had your dirt bike, you could rip around that whole island and just explore. And Quadra Island is big. I think it's actually bigger than our island. Our island is 16.7 miles long here, Salt Spring Island, and I think Quadra Island's a heck of a lot bigger. I'm gonna have to head up there sometime again. I did a lot of fishing up there between Campbell River and Quadra Island, salmon fishing. There's a lot of really, really good fish up there, man. I love that area. It is actually quite beautiful, very laid back. The wild west coast there, QSL.
Yeah, QSL, Joe. My God almighty, Joe. It's sure as talk. I've never talked to anybody. Of my growing up, Campbell River, Harriet Bay. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. talking about. And it really hits a spot in my life, growing up, having so much fun fishing up there, and great salmon fishing. I had a red snapper. I had this really cool spot right out of the camp, right there in our bay, which it's called Village Bay. It was the actual bay of my grandfather's bay that owned the bay with a little island in the middle. That was called Village Bay, and up above it was that lake, and then the river came right through, and the water was really good water. Before it hit the ocean there, at high tide. At high tide, we take the aluminum boat. We had two big plastic, brand new plastic garbage cans with lids on them, and we had a bucket, and we had high tide. We could take from the ocean, from right there from our cabins, go a little ways out, and they go up the river. With the ocean, we go right up to the mouth of the river, where the river was pouring into the ocean at high tide, right? And we take the boat right up to right there, right where the
Eye drops in now. Oh, I start to hurt.
and we go up